Okay. Okay. So welcome, guys. I'm Sarah Walbuser. I'm an attorney and I'm the owner of Destination Legal. So if you haven't run into me around the village, I basically have an online legal shop where I sell contracts and templates for online business owners, coaches, service providers, basically anyone working online. I have website protections and privacy policies and independent contractor agreements and one-on-one contractor agreements, affiliate agreements, anything you could want legally. And then I also do trademark registrations for brand protection. And I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I started Destination Legal because I wanted the freedom and flexibility to work from anywhere. I wanted to be able to be at home with the kiddo if I wanted. And so here we are today. I have a 15-month-old who is keeping us very busy right now through this crazy time of coronavirus. Yeah, it's crazy. But I wanted to do this because I've been getting a ton of questions just from my audience on contracts around Corona and what does it mean and what do I do, and all kinds of stuff has popped up. So we thought we'd use this opportunity to kind of talk about that, and then also talk about just kind of legal protections in general. And so it looks like, yeah, we're getting a few more people popping on, which is great. So basically, you know, contracts are meant to be a protection for us. They're offensive. They're like health insurance or flood insurance. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily want to use it, but you're very glad that you have it when you need it. And so something like a pandemic, something we haven't experienced before, that disrupts our businesses, contracts can really provide a good safety net. And so whether you're a business owner, service provider, coach, whatever, if you're working one-on-one, likely you have some kind of contract in place that may or may not have been, you know, come up lately in the past couple of weeks. So a couple of different scenarios that have popped up, especially in kind of the online service provider world, is if I, you know, had a live event or retreat or that I was participating in or hosting, and it has to be canceled, what do I do now? And so most likely if you are hosting an event like that and you had a contract, it had what is called a force majeure clause in it, which says, should something like this come up, an act of God, terrorism, travel disruption, or anything out there, you know, that you are allowed to legally postpone and you can't be held liable for anything because of that. And so this really provides flexibility for a lot of these retreats and conferences and things that are having to be canceled right now. And so it allows the business owner to move it to another date without any real legal repercussions. Now, it can be messy having to reschedule and all that, but fortunately, most hotels, conference centers, things like that, they all have these clauses too. And so people can usually reschedule without incurring too much financial liability, which is really important. One of the other questions I'm getting, especially for coaches or one-on-one providers, is, you know, if their clients can't pay all of a sudden, or they have to have a late payment or a deferred payment, or what do we do? My client is coming to me and they want out of their contract. And so, you know, Corona, something like this, it's not necessarily a chance to get out of your contract, but it is an opportunity to maybe be a little bit flexible. So if you are a service provider working with clients and, you know, your clients are having a rough time or they're asking for, you know, different payment plans or deferments, you can do that. You know, now might be the time to sort of be flexible and realize that we're all under additional stress. It's okay to change a contract for the times. You know, if you're running a brick and mortar and no one can come anymore, like, how can you keep it going? You know, Danielle has done a great job of this, of how can we move some of this online? How can we keep things going during this time? And that is something a lot of people are having to do. So if you are working one-on-one, in, you know, if you're a social media manager, if you're a coach or something like that, you can actually amend your contract in writing just to kind of outline those new terms. So if you want to defer a payment, if you want to extend, let's say you were coaching for 2 months and now it's 4 months, and now the payments, are maybe smaller, but it still ends up being the same, just over a different amount of time. You can update that in writing or over email, just so you're both on the same page. And, the important thing right now is open communication. You don't want to disappear on your clients. You don't want them to disappear on you. So if you can just come to an agreement on what things will be like moving forward, then you can continue in a great relationship. Now, if you are a service provider or client right now and you have no contract, it's a tough situation to be in, because you don't have that safety net, you don't have those boundaries, you don't have anything to refer back to. And so it's that type of situation where you might end up losing some sales. You might have a few issues because, again, the contract is kind of like your insurance policy. And so I think for a lot of businesses that maybe didn't use contracts, this is a good lesson, and they know now moving forward how important it is to have that in place. Any questions on kind of those basics?
I had a quick question. So as far as like amending the contract, how do you recommend that, like, the action of that goes into place? So is it something that you send out as a DocuSign that's attached to their current contract, or do you send that out as a new document? Can you talk a little bit more about the amendment process to a current contract?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of it depends on you and the other person. So depending on the situation, as long as it's in writing and as long as the original contract that you're amending provides for changes in writing and not, you don't have to have a signature. They used to say it needs to be done by fax machine, but now most of them just say a written instrument, and that can be email as well. So you don't necessarily need to do it through DocuSign. And what you would do, and I actually have a do-it-yourself amendment package for this that kind of outlines how you do it. If you want to do it by email, basically you're saying, "Dear X, like as we discussed, we've agreed to change your, sessions from X to Y, or because we're closed now, we've agreed that this is going to be the monthly fee moving forward," or, we had, I agreed to do the flowers at your event in April. Now it's going to be in August. I've attached the original contract. If you agree, just please respond to this email. I agree. So the key there is you want to present the amendment in writing, and then they agree back in email. That's one way. You definitely can do it in DocuSign as well. So it would look like a similar thing. As we agreed, we're updating term X of the previous contract signed on September 15th, 2019. Here's the new terms that we agreed to, X signature, and that's fine too. So the key there is just that you're outlining what's newly being agreed to, and that you're getting their agreement back, either from a signature or from an email. It's really whatever you're comfortable with. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Cool. And it's something that is happening a lot, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with amending the contract. And right now, again, it's just that little bit of flexibility that can be so helpful for all of us. So definitely, if you have questions on that, let me know. So, that's a little bit about, updating contracts and the importance of contracts and what they can do for you. And so then I want to talk just a little bit more in general about legal protections for a business. And, I primarily work with online business owners, so that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I think, people more and more are going to be moving online. And even if you have a brick and mortar, chances are, you're still on a website, which means you are working online. And you might be working with clients and need them to sign something, even if you're offering an in-person service. So all of this will definitely still be applicable. So, in business, obviously, We need contracts for a variety of things. We need contracts if we're working with clients, if we're hiring team members, if we're hosting events, if we're getting into partnerships. Basically, anytime money is being exchanged, you want to make sure to have a written contract in place. And it doesn't have to be crazy. A lot of attorneys might give you 20 pages of legalese. It's not necessary to have all of that. The templates I sell are maybe 5 pages, but what's important is that you're outlining the terms of the agreement, how you're getting paid or being paid, if you have a refund policy. If you're running, let's say you're running an online course or some type of membership site, you want to make sure to have those payment policies in place. If you offer a payment plan, what happens if they miss one? If you're a coach, what if they miss a session? How much notice do you need? So again, contracts are not only about keeping your sales and keeping yourself from getting sued, but also creating expectations and boundaries with the clients that you're working with. Disclaimers are an important part of contracts. So as a business owner, you're not legally liable for anything that could go wrong. As a coach, if you're a health coach, you can't guarantee that someone's going to lose 20 pounds. If they drink a green smoothie that you gave them the recipe and they have an allergic reaction, it's not your fault. So basically, it's just really important to be clear that you're not liable for basically anything that could go wrong. And this goes true for live events and retreats as well. Limiting liability in those instances is obviously very important, and doing anything in person can just open yourself up a little bit more to liability because of things like slip and fall and allergic reactions to food and different things like that. And so contracts aren't meant to be scary. They're not meant to be intimidating. It's really the foundation of your business, and once you have it in place, you don't have to think about it, and it's just who you are. And so as you're building a business, of course, other things will pop up. So when you're hiring someone, you want a service provider agreement or an agreement for independent contractors that outlines the terms of their employment. What are they providing? What are you providing? How are they getting paid? Again, just all of these things, it's really important to have them in writing for your files. And then, if you are working online, if you do have an online course, or if you're selling products, physical products, if you're running a membership site, then you'll need something a little bit different, and that's called terms of purchase. Might also be called terms of use or terms and conditions. And basically what these are, it's similar to a one-on-one contract. It outlines everything that you need, or everything that's included in what you're providing, what your terms are, if you're physical product, delivery terms, refunds, all of that kind of stuff. The big difference is that it can be agreed to online at the point of purchase. So we all do it all the time. By clicking here, you agree to our terms of purchase or our terms of use. And it's a way for you to make sure you're meeting the legal obligation and having the contract in place. But if you're selling 5,000, you're not going to be wanting to use DocuSign for that, right? So this is for products that you're going to be selling in mass or in bulk. And again, it's something that you can agree to online at the point of purchase. But courts have found they have just as much legal standing as a written contract. The main point is that it's at the point of purchase. It can't just be hidden somewhere in your website. So then turning to the website, as a lot of businesses are going to be moving online, and, most businesses, whether you're brick and mortar, service provider, whatever, you have a website. And if you have a website, you are opening yourself up to legal liability just by existing. So if you are sending out a newsletter, or you're sending out a blog, or doing, a YouTube channel, you are opening yourself up to liability just by putting information out in the world. Because should someone take the information that you're sharing and somehow become physically, mentally, financially injured, they can come back and sue you. Now, it's rare, of course, that someone's going to sue you over a blog post, but it has happened, and it certainly does happen. And so what can protect you and your website are website terms of service and disclaimers. And so these, are similar to what might be in a one-on-one contract in terms of what's included, but really about your website, what visitors can and can't do with the information that you're putting out there. Disclaimers, again, that you're not what you're putting out there, you know, I say this all the time, is information only, education. I'm not providing legal advice. And so if you're a health coach, it might be, you know, again, this is just education information. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a therapist, things like that. So that really protects you and from the information that you're putting out there. And then again, if you're recommending third-party websites or you're linking to Amazon, you don't want to be held responsible for anything that happens once someone clicks on a link and goes over there. So if you recommended a product, they go buy it, they get it and get injured, you don't want them to come back and be like, well, I did it because she told me to, and so I'm going to sue her for damages. And so you just want to make sure that you are not part of that chain of events. And so, you know, while the terms of service and disclaimers are about protecting you as the business owner, privacy policies are about protecting visitors to your website. And they are legally required in the US, in the EU, Australia, Canada, most countries. You have to have a privacy policy on your website. In the US, this is because of a law that exists in California, and all of our websites show up in California. So whether or not our business is there, we still have to comply with that law because California residents could be visiting your website. And if you don't have a privacy policy, you can be charged $2,500 every time someone links on it. And so years ago, Delta got a fine of $37 million from the state of California because they didn't have a privacy policy. And so, you know, it outlines what information you're collecting, what you intend to do with it, you know, that you're not selling it, that you're not, you know, giving it away, that you're doing your best to protect it, that you're not marketing to children, that you're not spamming anyone, a couple different things like that. And so your privacy policy needs to be on every page of your website, and then also any landing pages where you might be collecting emails as well. So if you're using opt-ins, you know, lead pages or ClickFunnels, you need to make sure to have your privacy policy on that. So any questions on kind of websites or terms? I know it's a lot of information. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming. So.
No, I'm just like, oh crap.
Okay, cool. Well, you know, it is what it is. Now you know. And so again, this is something, legal stuff, it can keep you up at night, but once you're set and it's all there, it's kind of just leave it and you don't have to worry about it. So fortunately with Destination Legal, with other online business firms these days, it's not $8,000 to get all your legal foundations in place. It's a couple hundred. So we've certainly come a long way in the industry, and I think that's why, you know, that's certainly why I wanted to do Destination Legal, because I wanted to be a resource for business owners that wasn't going to break the bank, that wasn't going to be a scary law firm or anything like that. So beyond kind of contracts and website, I wanted to just touch on brand protection and trademarks, because if you are building a business, whether it's a brick and mortar or online, you're building a brand. And so part of that is protecting it and owning the name. And the way that you can do that is to register a trademark. And a trademark is an amazing business asset to have. And so what a trademark is it's basically a designation of goods or services that you're providing to the marketplace. So to get a registered trademark, you do have to be selling something or intend to sell something. You don't necessarily have to be selling something today, but you do have to be selling something within a year or so. And so once you have a trademark, you own the name for that good or service. So for example, Nike, you know, Just Do It, the little swoosh, they own those trademarks for shoes, for sports apparel. Starbucks owns the little green mermaid for coffee. Now, if Starbucks started selling t-shirts and wanted the brand protection, they would have to do a whole other trademark application. So there are about 45 different trademark classes, and it really depends on what you're selling. So if you're, you know, a coach in the online industry and you're doing courses and coaching, you would be in the education class. If you are a florist, you know, you would be in, there's a class of floral designers and goods and things like that. If you have a brick and mortar, maybe you're a co-working space, you would be in a different class as well. And so, you know, a trademark is something that is so valuable. It lasts as long as you are in business, and, you know, there are a couple filing requirements to keep up with. But what it means that no one can come within your industry and use a name even remarkably similar to yours. So trademarks are all about protecting brands and making sure consumers aren't confused. And so there are a couple nuances. You know, for example, you can't have something too descriptive of the service you're providing. So for example, Apple can be a trademark for computers and phones, but you couldn't trademark an apple if you're selling apples, or you couldn't trademark the word apple pie for an apple pie shop because it's too descriptive. And so, you know, trademarks are something that someone can do on their own, but I don't recommend it. I do recommend you use an attorney, because while the application, you know, it isn't extremely difficult, there are these little pieces that if you didn't go to law school, you aren't a trademark attorney, you're just not going to know. I have people coming to me all the time who tried on their own. They get an office action letter back from the trademark office, and they're all freaked out because they're about to lose it and they don't know what to do. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's something that I can fix. And it's something that, had they come to me first, wouldn't have been an issue. So there are some nuances to doing your class description, and you have to submit a specimen and all that kind of stuff. I get the question a lot of, how do I know if it's time to trademark, or when should I trademark? And, you know, the best answer I have is what I call, it's just a gut check. So if you are in business and you have the name of a program or your business name, or you know, you're selling these t-shirts and they have this great tagline on them, if someone came to you tomorrow with a cease and desist letter and was like, you have to stop using that name, how would you feel? Did you get a gut punch? You know, like, did your stomach kind of sink down? If yes, then it might be time to trademark. If you're fine with rebranding and you don't mind not selling that program ever again, then maybe not. And so I think the question to ask is, how upset would you be if you had to stop using your brand name tomorrow? And then, do you plan to use that in the future? Certainly, if you at some point want to sell your business, you know, if you're doing products or brick and mortar and you want to start a chain or do licensing, or a buyer at some point might want to come around, having a trademark is a really important asset for sure. And now, if you are selling products on Amazon, they have a special thing called a brand registry, which you can't get on the brand registry unless you have a registered trademark. So I've definitely seen an influx of people coming to me who have e-commerce stores and they need that registration. So again, it's something that if you know you're going to be selling under this name for a while, it's worth it. It is a process. It can take up to 6 months to a year, depending on what kind of issues might pop up. But it also is kind of a race to the trademark office. So if I filed my trademark on April 1st and you filed yours on March 15th and they're similar, then whoever filed on March 15th is going to get to go through the process first. And so if there's something that you're thinking about, you know, definitely reach out. We can chat about it. But it's one of those things that you don't want to wait too long. I just had someone come to me this week who's a coach and has a signature program that she's been selling for 2 years, but another coach just went and filed the trademark on December 31st, and they had just started selling it. And now she pretty much has to stop because this other trademark came about. So it can be something where, you know, if they come after you later, trademark infringement, cease and desist, all that, you really have to comply. So it can end up costing you quite a bit of time and money if you haven't gone through the process. So any questions on that? No. Okay. Well, that's kind of the main points that I wanted to hit on. You know, again, we talked about contracts and how to amend them and what to do during this time. And we talked about just contracts in general for your business and protecting your website and trademarks and brand protection. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know probably a few people are out enjoying the sunshine, and that's totally okay. If people are watching the replay, I think we're going to send out the recording, and any questions pop up, you can feel free to reach out to me at sarah@destinationlegal.com, and our website is destinationlegal.com as well. Anything else, Danielle? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we just want to make sure, because I think that I'm sure, people have things that they want to discuss or think about, or things that they're like, oh crap, I need to follow up on this, or I need to look at this. So just making sure that they know your website and where they can reach out to you, or you can send me an email and I'll be happy to forward your information right to Sarah, because I have her information obviously easily accessible. So if you're like me and you're like, oh yeah, I need to do this, or I need to do this, or I feel like every time I chat with Sarah, I'm like, oh crap, I need to add this level of layer of whatever.
Yeah, and I'll send a coupon code for 15% off any templates from the legal shop. We can just use the code The Village, and then if anyone realizes that they need something, they can head over there and get that.
Yeah, I think that's really where it's at, and really helpful. And I think for a lot of us, we're just trying to keep our heads above water, and we're offering, for a lot of us that are offering online services for the first time, it's trying to figure out what that looks like and what that means. And so I think that's really helpful. But I really appreciate you jumping on. And I know I was like, it's so nice out today. I don't know how many people we're going to get to jump in, but we'll post this up on the YouTube channel for everybody. And we may reach out and see if we could do a quick 30-minute round too.
Yeah, we can do an encore sure anytime. Yeah, I should have just taken this on my balcony with like a cocktail, and we could have just had a casual
right? I know, right?
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you for having me. And of course, I'm always a resource for you guys. And, during this time, we can't control much. Our mindset, but like legal is actually something that you can control. And so the more of this you can just do and get done, it's like checked off your plate, so you don't even have to worry about it. So
yeah, for sure. Does anybody else have any questions? I know that I saw some other people jump on. I think I saw Mafe jump in. I know she's trying to get an online store off the ground, and I know Mary's on from Operation Wonder. And either of you guys have questions?
No, I mean, I think it was just really helpful to kind of hear a layout. Being new to this world, it's good to get the foundation. And I think, there's definitely some pieces that we're doing really well with, and some pieces we're not doing so great with. So I think having a chance to kind of reflect on where we're at now, and then I'd reach out and kind of talk through. I think especially that website privacy policy is probably something that needs a little bit of creation. So, but yeah, no, it was great to get to hear all of this, and a good perspective to have, definitely. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, great. Well, guys, enjoy the rest of your sunny day. Is Oliver sleeping, or is he outside?
No, you want me to grab him?
Yes, I want to see his face.
Okay. I'm just gonna